Hey Addicts, I'm Michael.
And I'm Josh.
And today I'm on camera. And today we're doing volume 10 of Danmachi.
The best frickin' volume ever. So far.
Wow, way to spoil the rating.
Sorry.
It is really good.
That doesn't mean anything.
It does get me really hyped. It's a
watch
long...
we'll get to the end, it's garbage.
It's actually the worst. I hated the series the whole time. I've just been doing it for views.
That'd be perfect.
It's a long book to read just for views, but...
that shows how dedicated I am, so you should definitely get it.
So, yeah, we can talk about the plot. This is a direct continuation of Book 9. We have... Basically, Bell sides with the cause of the Xenos, and he fights against the Hunters, the evil individuals of the Iklos Familia. You get to find out what they're doing, and that's probably the darkest. I would say this is one of the darkest books, if not the darkest.
Yeah.
In regards to what people are doing on the black market to these Xenos monsters. These, basically
or just
humans.
what's happening to them in Dungeon 2. It's pretty bad.
And then, you get the monsters' response to, half their race being either killed or kidnapped. And you have some conflict. You have very epic battles in this one between...
I think the biggest scale we've ever seen.
Yep. And you have Bell actually fighting with someone else, and you have a fight with him. We can talk about more of that in our favorite moments. But basically, that's the plot is... basically, the antagonist in this one is the Hunters.
And as far as new characters, there isn't any new characters, but there you do get to see a bit more expanded upon the Hunters and stuff like that. So you get to see the leader, which is Dix. He has a connection to Daedalus or whatever.
Daedalus,
the guy that was
Daedalus.
Basically went mad and he made... he was trying to make a dungeon on par or surpass the dungeon, and then he also built part of the city.
You get some of that.
There was a hint to that's not a spoiler. They told you that in the previous books.
But yeah, if you know the anime Daedalus Street, there's even in book 7 they have like the sewer system that he designs that super, and it's in this book too.
And we got to see it under the orphan or close by the orphanage in book 8. So. There's been drops of it everywhere, but he is a descendant of that guy, which you get to understand their family line. We also have his second in command, which I don't remember his name, but he carries.
He's important, but he's not important.
Yeah, he's just somebody else to hate.
Yeah.
So
these are probably the most evil villains, I would say.
By far. I think it was like you kind of see some of the gods, and you're like, man. Why they gotta be so cruel or just devilish? But you see these people and you're like, they got nothing on. They got everything on the gods because they're just so much dark. I think that's one of the things. We're gonna skip this right into favorite stuff about this book, was just the tone. It's something that's kind of bipolar of the whole other parts of the installments of this series. Because it's got serious moments, it's got some darker moments, but in all the other ones, it's kept it kind of G or PG-13, level where they
besides book 7, but
still they kind of they don't come out and directly say it. They just kind of we use a bunch of
I guess bad stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah. And even when they talk about but this one, it's you get to see heads roll, you get to see people dismembered. There's a bunch going on that that make it more dark.
I agree.
Especially with as you'll see the Hunters and just how brutal and kind of the reasoning behind it. It's makes it even more. So, I would be lying if I would say that one of the best parts of this volume is the fights. Because they're we had the war game, but now that when you look at that, it's that's play. That's playing around. That's make believe compared to this because it actually feels like a war going on. Even with Ares attacking, nothing compared to this, which is really cool. I don't want to spoil anything, but
a lot of mid-level fights between level 5, level 4, level 3.
Yeah, which is great because you've been seeing these characters with Loki Familia and Freya, maybe in Freya Familias, we've seen some of them interact, but they've not been full-blown battles. It's been just just taking out the garbage. But, we finally get to see these people that have been lipping off, oh, I'm so powerful. Screw you guys. We get to actually see them put their punches where their mouth has been the whole time, which I loved seeing them get smacked around a little bit. Not saying, that doesn't mean anything. I just loved seeing actually somebody give them a fight.
Yeah, no spoilers, but no, we can't go into too much depth with that. But yeah, I like as far as me, I like the plot, the general story. You kind of have two. You have. I wouldn't say Bell is pure good, but you have a hero and you have a villain, you have an evil guy. I think Addicts is probably the only character in Danmachi so far I'd be like, yeah,
he's flat out evil.
He's flat out evil. I'm okay with him dying a horrible death. But yeah, he's probably the best villain in the Danmachi series, and you Bell kind of he not only does he battle him with sword and having different goals, but it also has a mental battle with him. He kind of makes fun of Bell for caring for these Xenos, and you get to again. I don't want to go too deep into spoilers and what happens, but that plays a major role. Is he's sadistic, but he's also smart and knows what people's weak spots are. So that kind of plays into the final fight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different aspects of just the story. There's so much layering to the story and the way it's told. I'm just impressed with all the new characters that they're able to set up these things. We didn't get paid off until books later.
Yeah, you talked about the situation with Lily, right?
Yeah. So this will be it's not a big deal, but it's when Lily goes to visit Sanus back at Soma Familia. And we get to see a callback to a scene that was all the way back in Volume 6 when they're trying to rescue her for the war game. And something he told her, a proposition that they had or plans they had for her and why they wanted her so badly in their family to make a profit. And she didn't understand why they could or how they could possibly make a profit off of her. We get to figure out that it relates to what's been going on in this arc. And the discovery of these Xenos. So, and that's just really cool to know that especially since I started in that book, just seeing something way back then where I was I don't want to say it's the most. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say it's the most pointless book, but it's not. But it's one of those where you look back at it now after everything's happened, you're maybe that's the least exciting one now, and just seeing No, I can't say that. I'm sorry. I wasted your time. But still, though, it's just cool seeing a callback from that far away. But yeah, like Michael said, there's, everything that this series tackles, whether it be romance or good storytelling with family themes or fights, it brings the A game for all that. Because I guess you shouldn't say there's an actual romance, but you get to see his devotion. It's very
human in a sense, even though it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and human at the same time.
Well, and I think it brings it home to where it's funny that you said it because it's the main focus of this arc is the monsters, but you get to see what Bell's struggling with because he's trying to say are they human? Are they not? You get to see his stance pretty clearly in this book, but it's just funny that you say that because it's just ironic that the book, the story arc that has the most human elements or the biggest human theme of the book is when it's primarily dealing with the monsters, and I just think that's a clever way of driving that point home.
So I had a couple favorite moments. Again, just the fight scenes. There's one with 2 level 4s versus a monster that's pretty great. I'm not gonna say it anymore. Yeah. And then one of my favorite underrated lines, we were talking about it because I think Josh just finished it recently, and I had taken some time before I read it. We were just talking about moments, but the final speech between the Sage and Bell, where Bell's kind of, his state of mind is in confusion, I guess you would say, about what the consequences of his actions are.
Yeah. How to step forward.
Yeah, how to move forward. And the Sage just gives a great line that I like. Going back, I can totally relate to. And again, I won't give it to you because it's kind of spoilery. But that's something to look out for and maybe think about that as you move on in the series, maybe to book 11 or whatever the future holds.
Which I think a good way to that I wanted to bring up was highlighting some of our favorite moments, specifically with just characters. Like, in this book, there's a lot of characters that do a lot of great things. I mean, obviously with Bell, like, his, like, beginning, middle, and end of this, just this book alone is really good. But some characters that I really liked seeing was Fells, which is the sage. Man, he's such a bro. He's like the Xenos' wealth.
Yeah,
you know,
pretty much.
And he's that's why I love him so much. He just helps out, and he's got some really cool abilities. Even though he's not necessarily the strongest out of the new characters that are introduced. Which some of the Xenos, I would say, out of the last book, the one that I was full on board with the character was Ween, because she's just got a lot of importance into the plot, and then just her character's something different, you know. But as far as the other monsters for this book is Leto.
Leto's so good.
He's
such a good fighter, and he's the leader, but he's also like the mental leader of them. Like I don't know. He humanizes them more than I think any other Xeno.
And he's kind of like another older brother to Bell in a way. Or maybe he's like
see how that
like Wealth. Kind of like Wealth is like an older brother to Wealth. Like Leto's like his best friend.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting for Bell because he really can't have a role model because it's like everyone in this world, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anyone's really his role model, but yeah, like an older brother kind of.
Well, not only that, but he has to tread lightly because it's like, if I follow the wrong one.
Yeah, exactly, and I would say that, and specifically with just how the situation works, he kind of helps Leto grow because in this book there's moments of doubt between the monsters, and you know they don't always accept his help or understand why he's helping. So I really enjoyed that part of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of those moments where you get to see a real progression. I think one of the things that happens on the middle part for me, I'm not gonna go spoiler with this, but like the ending the last book and going into this book, I was like, man, I can't wait for this certain interaction. It's gonna be really cool because I think they're on even playing field and stuff like that. But then when you get to the later part of it, you're like, I'm not sure, like, because you get new information, and you're like, I'm not sure how that's gonna exactly play out. And it's when you get to see progression like this for their characters, it like you have a more solid hope for what you want to see, but at the same time, like the situations that they're put in are very fragile, so may not go as you think it's going to go. I think that's one of the big things is twists in this book.
Yeah, so I guess we can get to our ratings. I'll go first, so Josh can decide exactly where he wants to put it. But I'm going to put it in the mid-tier FFA list. It's really good. It was my favorite book so far that we've reviewed. Really good story, really good action. Suspense. There's a lot of suspense in this one because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, fight scene after fight scene, it just keeps it on its toes. Like, there's some that we don't even see the aftermath of what happens to the characters, but you're like, oh, man, they left it.
Yeah, the chase scene where Belle's chasing someone to try to save them, it's so good and so intense because you don't know what's going to happen, and there's twists and turns, and the world is different now at the end of the book than it was before. So.
Which, this is probably the first one that I'm going to give a higher than 8 on, you know, which is going to be an FFA for me. It's just so good. It's a middle tier, but I have to do that again because I want to leave room for the next.
We got book 11. You got the finishing of the.
I mean, I agree with him. Like I was telling him before we started recording this, like this is my favorite volume, and I think this solidifies just how high I would rank this series, you know, in terms of as a whole. And where I want it to go. But that's my opinion, and I can't wait for the next book, which we will get to that.
We will get to that. He's got to wait. He's got to realize how much I struggled waiting for book 11 to come out. So.
Yeah, he wants me to suffer a little bit. But it's okay, because even though it's going to take us a little bit, we do have another review for a light novel coming. I won't drop the name here, just so you guys don't get...
just teaser. It's a similar genre. It's a little darker. There may be some firearms involved. That's about as much as we can give you for this episode.
You can deal with that. So
it
won't be long anyway. But anyway, guys, that will conclude our video. If you want to go check out the rest of our stuff, the links will be in the description.
The description will be in the links.
Yeah,
that's it.
I could do that. I'll try to Twilight Zone this. But anyway, guys, we'll see you next time. Later, Addicts.
Later.